With the NEL completed and the final 23 players who will represent Japan selected, we'll soon be preparing to enter the next arc, being the U20 World Cup. But with so many different possible formations and tons of different combinations, how do I think the U20 team is going to be structured? Or better question, where do I think every member of the top 23 is going to be positioned? Well, in today's video, rather than making a standard formation video, I'll be giving you my thoughts as to where I could see each member of the top 23 playing in the formations for the U20 World Cup. I've seen so many people making the original like, oh, this is going to be the best formation for the World Cup kind of video, so I thought, let me switch it up. You don't see a lot of creators talking about the specific positions of each of the players on the top 23 list and just make the best formation they can, so I thought you would enjoy this kind of video. Before I get into it though, I want to leave a spoiler warning for the latest chapters of the Blue Lock manga. If you are not caught up to chapter 300, I would just click off this video now if you wish to not be spoiled. I also have a Discord server called the Neo Egoist Geeks, which you should totally join. The link to that is down below. Now let's start by talking about Blue Lock's number 1, that being Rin Ittoshi. Now looking at what Rin is capable of in his arsenal, he has incredible shooting and dribbling skills, high levels of spatial awareness and passing, along with his destroyer mode or true flow state, making him one of the strongest forces to face off against. Despite providing him increased physicality, more resistance to mental pressure, and a greater impulse to take more dangerous chances, there are some downsides to this flow state. Of course, the obvious one being him taking riskier chances. With Rin in his flow state, he's always going to be more likely to take the riskier chances, such as constant crash shoots, along with more dangerous and potentially foul-earning tackles. His flow state also results in him being less likely to play in any assisting capacity, choosing to embrace his own ego, as opposed to passing to someone like Shidou, like we see in the match against Bastard München. Frankly though, I do believe that the positives of his flow state outweigh the negatives. This is because he acts like a calm tactician in most circumstances, only ever entering his flow state against very specific individuals. Overall though, when you look at Rin's abilities as a player, he really has no better place to be than as a striker or center forward. Rin is the greatest individual talent in all of Blue Lock, so having him play as a solo striker is definitely a feasible option. But you could also have Rin play as one of the two core figureheads of the team, as you could pair him with someone like Isagi to have them awaken the team to then evolve themselves. So when it comes to Rin's possible positions that he could play going into the World Cup, striker or center forward seem to be the only feasible options. Now next up is the other number 1 of Blue Lock and the main character of the series, that being Yoichi Isagi. When looking at the weapons that Isagi has in his arsenal, he's very similar to base state Rin. However, where Rin excels more in physical abilities, Isagi's strength lies in what you can't see, and in what he can see. Isagi possesses the greatest game IQ and vision in the U20 category, using his metavision and omnivision or true flow state to predict the flow of the game to make plays. While his physical stats are nothing to write home about, his stamina is incredibly high, being able to use metavision for 100% of the time during a game, which we know to drain a lot of stamina. And his dribbling and passing plays are overall decent, as he can quickly link up with those with metavision or individuals who possess incredible physical abilities to create chains of passes which lead to goals. Speaking of goals, Isagi unlocked the ability of semi-ambidexterity, allowing for him to shoot with either foot, even using his ambidexterity as a feint to shoot with the twin gun volley technique, which he learned and created in the PXG game. When it comes to what Isagi can do in the positions he can play, I think that there are at least 2 obvious roles. That's as a center forward and as an offensive midfielder. Throughout the majority of the Blue Lock series, Isagi has been playing as an offensive midfielder for the important games in the series. Against the U20 team, he was an offensive midfielder, and in every NEL game leading up to the final kickoff against PXG, Isagi has played as an offensive midfielder. And Isagi is really good at this position. We see that his presence in the midfield alone allows him to stimulate others, like Rin and Yukimiya in the U20 game, but also assist in defensive plays, like when he blocked Nagi and Chris Prince's shots in the net during the Manshan City match. I think when it comes to ultra defensive formations, Blue Lock could have Isagi as an offensive midfielder to assist in those defensive plays, and this wouldn't be like in the NEL, where as a center forward, Isagi would have to come back to help, since the defenders can actually do something in the World Cup. But as a center forward, he would be there to work alongside Rin, helping to compete and stimulate his evolution and then his own, making the duo an incredibly deadly pair for the teams that they face off against. But unlike Rin, Isagi doesn't possess the physical abilities that would allow for him to play as a solo goal scorer like someone like Barou or Shidou do. So for the potential positions that Isagi could play going into the World Cup, I could see him playing as a center forward or an offensive midfielder. Now next up, we have the number 3 in Blue Lock and the Pink Devil of the series, that being Shidou Ryusei. Now Shidou is a very special case for Blue Lock because I believe he could be played as a super or impact sub. Shidou is like Barou in the sense that their presence on the field creates chaos for those allied with him and those opposing him. We see this in the under 20 game where his movements and actions threw everyone off as he was disrupting formations across both teams. And that is definitely one of Shidou's greatest abilities. He also possesses ambidexterity and unpredictable shooting, making him an incredibly deadly offensive force. and his physical attributes are incredibly high in both the speed and power aspects, as Kunigami was forced to man mark Shidou in the PXG game as nobody else had the relative physical abilities to him and could lock him down. Shidou's other greatest weapon is in his creativity, using his wacky control of his body and confidence to hit shots that many people wouldn't see coming or even attempt. And this is what I think makes him such a good impact sub. If you can establish a rhythm in the teams that you face, then have Shidou disrupt that, it could lead to an easy goal scoring opportunity with an assist from someone like Ryo or Hiyori, who can predict how Shidou will act before others can. In this regard, I think Shidou's potential positions will be as a striker or a left winger. Shidou is definitely someone who could start and potentially will, but I actually think the better place for him on a team would be on the wing, where he can take advantage of his explosive speed and instincts to score goals. This is where I would put him in as an impact sub, swapping in for someone like Chigiri, increasing the goal scoring firepower as opposed to a more balanced sprinter. And I think that this just makes some sense for Shidou, given the issues with chemistry which we have yet to see fully resolve themselves, so I think that this is a good spot for him. Now next up is the man who everyone believed had his spot stolen from him, that being Barou Shoei. Barou's style is very similar to Shidou in the sense that he creates chaos on the pitch to serve his own ego. We see Barou do this through the intention of his plays to that of the devouring of Yoichi Isagi or Rin Ittoshi, where he essentially feeds off of the scraps of their plays to make himself known. And this is great for Barou because with Rin and Isagi acting as a mutualistic duo and a pair of rapidly evolving players, Barou coming in and essentially leeching off their development to feed his own ego is just a really good way to throw the other team's guard off. But Barou's strengths do not simply lie in stealing the spotlight from others. He can clearly ascend to a level individually that lets the spotlight choose him. This is through his powerful charging and high vision, with his dribbling and shooting that allowed for him to act as an individual powerhouse. And despite being a restrictive ego needing the pressure of another powerful force to allow for Barou to shine his best, Barou can still continue to play in an environment of total support, seen with the Ubers team, as their support let Barou get to his existing NEL value of 150 million. Because of this, I feel like Barou would play in a similar capacity to Shidou, playing as a solo striker or as a right winger. I think how I could see the Blue Lock team executing their wingers is throwing the more speedy and agile forces on the left while establishing key power roles on the right. These two players would act as impact subs, coming in to throw the game into chaos and set a new rhythm that only the Blue Lock team could adapt to. And to quote Isagi himself, that's the true essence of King Barou's game. Next up, we have the Buzzy Bee of the project and the GOAT throughout the entire series, that being Meguru Bachira. Now Bachira is a very interesting character because he can play in so many different positions. He has the incredible dribbling that someone on the wing could extort to break through the team, which is why we see him as a side back in the U20 game to do that exact thing. He has the passing skills of a playmaking midfielder, as his passes led to numerous goals not just in the NEL, but even going back to the selection events and U20 game. And while his shooting may not be anything of insane quality like Rin or Barou or Kaiser, Bachira is still able to consistently put up goals. I mean, he was the third ranked goal scorer in the entire NEL for quantity of goals. So when it comes to Bachira and his possible positioning, I feel like you could put him as an offensive midfielder or a right winger. His placement in the midfield would play a role like Hiyori or Ryo, making passes and plays. However, he could use his dribbling to carve a pass through the middle, seen with his flow state in the U20 game. Putting him on the wing, he could link up with players like Chigiri, Rin, Isagi, Shidou, Barou, or even Yukimiya, creating a powerful offensive line with numerous possible chemical reactions. Bachira could even use all of those players to score goals for himself. As we've seen, he has a high ability to score goals with simple link-ups and passing plays carving the way for him. But putting him in the midfield or right wing just feels kinda right to me. Now next up is my go and favorite character in the entire Blue Lock series, that being Chigiri Hyoma. Now I don't think it's any secret as to where Chigiri should be placed going into the World Cup. It's on the left wing. His entire NEL development was about him developing a self-sufficient style, using his speed to formulate a way for him to dribble and weave around individuals, ending with a near unstoppable goal. This style is what is best for him as a goal scorer, and even aside from that capacity, Chigiri's speed and passing abilities make him a great crosser on the wing. I mean, his 44 Panther snipe is essentially him just passing to the top corner of the net. So not only can Chigiri act in a goal scoring role, but also an assisting role. You could even play him in the wingback position to assist on defense, which is also a viable option, because we've seen him use his speed to press other characters before, allowing for easier attempts at ball stealing or a turnover to occur. But there are numerous other characters like Kiora, Zanta, to Kurono who you could put in this position instead, as these characters all lack the scoring power that Chigiri has, but can contribute equally on defense. So to throw Chigiri on defense as opposed to subbing a different fast character to assist in that way seems like a waste for him. So for Chigiri, the only reasonable position for him to play is the left winger with really no alternatives. But next up on our list of blue lockers, we have Mikage Reo. Now Reo is an incredibly exceptional case because of his chameleon copy weapon. With his chameleon style, Reo has the ability to copy any technical play that his physical body is capable of reproducing. He is required to at least see the technique first, but the more frequently he sees it, the closer his copy can be to the original, and this also extends to seeing it in person. There is also one extra benefit to Ryo's copy ability that I don't see people mention that much. When under very specific circumstances, Ryo can copy the genius mutation of another player. For example, due to Ryo's closeness with Nagi, Ryo subconsciously learned how to translate Nagi's genius trapping into a technical play that he can copy with his physical specs. Now, normally this shouldn't be possible, as Isagi himself stated that Ryo is unable to copy anyone whose abilities are genetic to them. However, Ryo has shown now that this isn't always the case and that there are some exceptions that can occur. But because he has the ability to copy numerous different tactical plays, Ryo has the ability to play in any single position on the pitch. He has the dribbling and passing weapons that a midfielder would need, seen with him copying Sai's dribbling techniques and Bachira's passing, but he also is a player who can subconsciously use metavision, which I will predict he will unlock controllably in later games. He has the scoring power of a striker or forward, allowing him to copy the goal scoring techniques like Rin's Trivela shot, Yukimiya's gyro shot, and even Nagi's jumping turn trap shot. And he has defensive potential with Aiku's serpent defense and Neo's core obstruction. The only position I can't see him playing in is the goalkeeper. This is given the incredible talent that our main keeper already possesses. But because Ryo's copy ability allows him to essentially play in any different position he needs, going into the World Cup I feel like Ryo will be positioned in every different line on the pitch. Now after Ryo, we have the wildcard successful product in Rensuke Kunigami. Now Kunigami's arsenal, especially after the wildcard, is very offensive heavy. Increasing all of his physical abilities and learning to shoot almost equal in power with either foot have allowed for him to be a powerful individual force. And if we're being honest, Kunigami would probably score just as many goals as Isagi if people chose to support him in the same way that people supported Isagi. But either way, with the way that Kunigami has been acting recently, where do I think he would be placed on the pitch? Well, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. If Kunigami continues to act like this dark horse, playing only for himself and rarely contributes to team plays, I don't think I could see him playing as a starter, much less as a sub. But with his offensive power and abilities, putting him on the right wing the same as Barou seems reasonable. Kunigami's dribbling may not be as good as Barou, but he still has the ability to weave around players using his ambidexterity as bait. But I could see him play a similar role to how we did in the PHG game, as a defensive midfielder used to man mark people. When looking at Kunigami's weapons, his incredible physical abilities severely outclass his scoring capabilities. And with his pressure on Shidou, he showed how well he can man mark someone if he chose to do so. So in a situation where the opposing team has a strong ace type of player, Kunigami could be used to restrict his movements and lock them down, leading to easy ball steals from the other defensive players. This to me seems like the only two possibilities for Kunigami as a character, and I hope we get to see some more depth from Kunigami going into the next few games. So for Kunigami's potential positions, I could see him acting as a right winger or as a defensive midfielder. After Kunigami though, we have the sneaky ninja in Eita Otoya. Now for Otoya's position, he needs to be able to utilize his speed to sneak and receive passes quickly and send them back, but also give him the potential to score goals. So if I'm being honest, I can see Otoya either as a left or right winger, but also as a left wing back. Having Otoya on the wing just makes a lot of sense given his speed and stealth, which force the defender to keep a lock on him, essentially dividing the backline's attention for other goal scorers. But I honestly think that a wing-back position would be better for Otoya, and this is because of his chemistry with Karasu and Chigiri. We saw in the U20 game how effective their tri-fusion chemical reaction worked, nearly leading to a goal by Karasu if not for Sai's interjection. And with Karasu likely playing as a defensive midfielder and Chigiri on the left wing, by putting Otoya in the left wing-back position, you could essentially have all three characters link up again and make a press down the left side of the field. With powerful man markers like Kunigami and Karasu as defensive midfielders, they can pressure the opposing team to force a pass, to which Otoya could snatch it up like he did against Manshan City. You could have Otoya play it on the wing, however I feel like it would be a waste in relation to other goal scorers like Chigiri, Shidou, or Barou. So putting Otoya as a winger is definitely a position he could be placed in, but as a left wingback seems like the more reasonable placement. Next up though, we have the best defender in Japan, that being Oliver Aiku. Now Aiku's position is going to be fairly obvious. Aiku is going to be our center back. This comes from his physical abilities, spatial awareness, and reflexive action, which make him the best defender in the top 23. That's not even accounting for his awakening of metavision and flow, making him the true final wall for the Japan team. And while this isn't necessarily a position, I would make Aiku the captain of this new under-20 team. I think Aiku is a character who will not only play every game as the captain should, but also has the experience and skill that gives people confidence. He has great chemistry with nearly every blue locker on the team, and as the best defender on the team, acting as the final wall for them both figuratively and physically, just makes sense as reasoning for him to be the captain. So for Aiku's position, it makes the most amount of sense for him to be a center back and also the captain of this new under-20 team. Now before getting into the rest of the characters, if you are enjoying this video so far, leave me a like and subscribe down below to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this. Videos like this take a lot of time, so if you are enjoying the video, you know what to do. And if you want to support me even further by becoming a member of the channel, you would not only earn a ton of awesome benefits like personal video requests and shoutouts in videos, but you would also be mentioned in the Blue Lock New World movie as a contributor to the project. So if you're interested, become a member today and help support me and my content in the future. Now after Aiku comes another strong defensive player, that being Tabito Karasu. Like Aiku, Karasu's position is fairly obvious. He's going to be placed as a defensive midfielder. Karasu, as much as I dislike the character, is non-debatably the greatest defensive midfielder in the top 23. His analytical and calculated demeanor allow for him to create strategies for offense and defense as he quickly reacts to loose balls and sparks plays for the team. With his recent awakening of metavision, he's able to do this drastically easier, and it also increases his defensive power, seen with him predicting and stopping the twin gun volley in the PHG game. I also mentioned earlier that with Karasu as a defensive midfielder, he can link up with Chigiri and Otoya to create left side presses, which I definitely think is a possible thing for them to work towards. But bottom line, Karasu will likely be the defensive midfielder for every game, and I can't see him in any other position. We just seem to be hitting home with the obvious picks here, because the next up on our list is Gin Gagamaru. Now Gagamaru's position, I shouldn't really need to argue this, he's going to be playing as a goalkeeper. I've seen some people say that now with Fukaku on the top 23 team, it would allow for Gagamaru to play in a position other than goalkeeper, but why would you ever want Gagamaru to leave the goal, especially with Fukaku replacing him? He's by far the best option for goalkeeper that we have, using his reflexive movement and incredible balance to make saves that most people would fail to achieve. And sure, having Gagamaru in another position would be kinda cool, but it wouldn't be very practical. So Gagamaru would pretty much be our full-time goalkeeper. We just can't stop getting the obvious picks back to back, because the next up on our list is Aryu Jyubei. Now, like I said, Aryu, like the other guys, is a fairly obvious pick. He's going to be another center back. What's great about Aryu on defense is that his long reach and jumping ability is something that not even Aiku has in his arsenal. Sure, Aiku has a massive defensive range for himself in the plays that he involves himself with, but even he has limits when it comes to reach and jumping height. Aryu covers those weaknesses with his genetic advantage. He was one of the core foundation elements for the Blue Lock 11 backline during the Under 20 game, and he was crucial for stopping any aerial attacks in the match against Bastion München. I really don't think that Aryu has any potential anywhere else, so a defender is who he shall be and where he shall stay. Now next up though is going to be someone a little less obvious, but we have Kenyu Yukimiya. Now with Yukimiya it was a little difficult for me because I could see him playing in two different aspects. Obviously the first is as a winger, as his powerful street dribbling and gyro shot allow for him to play as a capable goal scorer, and with his awakening of Predator it could also be leveraged for him to be placed in a position like this. I could also see him being placed as a wing back like in the NEL though, where he uses his strength and speed to stop opposing attackers, but also kickstart his own using his dribbling. I would likely put Yukimiya on the right wing or right back though, mainly to keep the left side more centered on agility, while the right side is more focused on technique and power. Plus with players like Otoya, Chigiri, and Shidou on the left side, putting Yukimiya on the right side kind of balances that out a bit. But honestly, you could put him on either side of the wing. So I could really see Yukimiya being played as a winger or a wing back in the World Cup. Next up though is the first spatial awareness rival that Isagi ever had, that being Ikki Niko. Now like all the other characters, Niko is someone who I could see playing two main roles. The first is as a center back. While Niko really can't compare to Aiku or Aryu when it relates to physical power, adding Niko on the backline with his metavision is a good way to tighten up the defense if needed. But on the other hand, I think Niko would play well as a defensive midfielder alongside someone like Karasu. Throughout the NEL, Niko's best feats have not been as a center back, but as a midfielder. And it makes sense because prior to Blue Lock, Niko was originally a midfielder according to his light novel. With his metavision and positioning, Niko is great at stealing balls or connecting passes, and just overall working within the midfield as a centerpiece to the offensive play. If Niko isn't placed as a center back, I would 100% put him as a defensive midfielder, as I think it lets him show off what he's capable of better than as a center back. Next up, after Niko, we have the man of baby blue and cyan hair, that being Hiyori. Now, Hiyori is by far one of the easiest characters to place, even easier than Gagamaru. I would put Hiyori as an offensive midfielder or just a general midfielder. Hiyori is by far the greatest midfielder in the Blue Lock project. He has incredible passing, which has been comparable to Ittoshi Sai back in the U20 game, and with his awakening of metavision, it allowed for his playmaking abilities to skyrocket. His dribbling is also fairly high as well, seen with him breaking past the press of Niko and Lorenzo in the Ubers game, as well as beating Karasu in a 1v1 in the PHG game. By putting Hiyori as a midfielder, it would allow for him to link up with any player on the forward line. Two key players in particular being Isagi and Shidou, who would drastically increase in deadliness with Hiyori backing them with his passes. So putting Hiyori in the midfield as a general midfielder or offensive midfielder is the easiest thing to argue. If you say otherwise though, you're dumb. After Hiyori though is a character who I struggled to decide where I would place him, that being Shuto Sendo. Now the reason I had issues when it came to putting Sendo on a team isn't because he's bad, it's actually because he's good. What people don't acknowledge is that Sendo is actually a really good player, he just gets outshined by others around him. On the original Japan Under-20 team, he was a fan favorite in the country, labeled as the ace of the team. So Sendo really isn't a bad character, he's just severely outclassed. What Sendo excels in though, is being a secondary striker. In the two formations we've seen for Sendo, he always plays as the shadow to some other figurehead like Shido or Barou. And this is a good thing because if the other team believes that they've shut down the only goal scorer for the Blue Lock team, Sendo can just appear and score a goal for himself. And this was shown in the game against Manshan City. I'd see Sendo being placed in a similar position, but only in the context that there is only one main goal scorer or striker in this formation. It's possible that he could be placed as a midfielder to assist in that way, but I don't really see that happening. So for Sendo, I could only really see him being placed as a shadow or secondary striker. Next up though, we have a fan favorite character, that being Corona Ranze. And this placement is not going to be anything strange. I would put Corona as a wingback. Corona's speed and short turning make him an incredible passing partner, as seen with the Planet Hotline chemical reaction that he has with Isagi. We've also seen him use this speed to press other fast characters on defense. An example is during the game against Manshan City, where Corona pressed Chigiri, forcing him to pass. The biggest issue when it comes to Corona is actually his stamina issues. This has led them to being subbed out fairly early in the games during the final two NEO games, being Ubers and PXG. Assuming he doesn't fix this issue going into the World Cup, I can't see Corona starting. However, he could definitely be played as a sub to help strengthen Isagi's attacking power, while adding a speedster who can press people on defense. But again, it all comes down to his stamina issue and if he can fix that before going into the World Cup. Bottom line though, I see Corona as a wingback in the World Cup formations. After Corona though comes another popular speedster, that being Tsurugi Zantetsu. Now like Corona, I think he would have a similar role on the team, that being as another wingback. Zantetsu is incredibly fast, mostly seen using his explosive acceleration to kick off plays. However, he's also been seen using his speed defensively, seen with him knocking the ball away from nets in the PXG game. But the main reason I want him as a wingback is for his team up with Chigiri. In the episode Nagi manga, we see Zantetsu and Chigiri's dual speedster chemical reaction be used to blow past the opposing team. With the improvements that both players have made to their styles and speed, this would be a way more deadly chemical reaction than the current series, and could potentially lead to a break or even a goal in the World Cup. I do think you could put him in the midfield to allow for these characters to have a closer range in terms of compatibility, but I think putting him as a left wingback grants all of the same benefits with even more to boot. Now next up is a character that I'm sure nobody likes and is actually kind of shocked how he managed to survive, that being Fukaku Gen. Fukaku only survived for a single purpose, and that's to be a substitute goalkeeper. Assuming Kagamaru gets injured, that would be his only purpose in any lineup. And again, that's only under very specific conditions. There's not really much else to say though. Fukaku would be the goalkeeper if Kagamaru got injured or couldn't play. So let's just move on. And move on we shall, and we're moving on to one of my girlfriend's favorite characters in the Blue Lock series, that being Raichi Jingo. Now Raichi is a character who, like Karasu, only excels in one area, being a defensive midfielder. Raichi's unrelenting stamina allows him to act as a man marker, but also a constant rusher towards loose balls, as we see him do both in the NEL. I think that putting Raichi in the defensive midfielder spot would be used to tighten the defensive line, but at the same time I would put Kunigami as a defensive midfielder over Raichi. I mean, Raichi is basically just a worse version of Kunigami with slightly more stamina, so it would really have to come down to what we could see from Raichi in the future of this story. He could potentially be thrown in as a defender alongside Aiku, Niko, and Aryu to hold the backline, while Kunigami and Karasu are defensive midfielders, but that's for an ultra defensive formation. I do really think that Raichi's only usability would be as a defensive midfielder, but with players like Karasu, Kunigami, and Niko, I don't know how much game time he would realistically get. Next up though, nearing the end of our list, we have Kiora Jin. Now Kiora is a very special case because the only feats we have for him in relation to the main storyline are one single play in the PXG game and all of the evidence from the episode Nagi's side story in the second selection. However, I do have an idea as to where Kiora could be placed in the formation, assuming that all of the evidence is still applicable. Kiora's specialty is as a grounder, using all of the space from his upward standing body to laying down on the grass to progress down the field. His unyielding balance provided by his breakdancing skills allows for him to keep possession and distance from other players, allowing for him to continue down the field with dribbles or send passes to teammates. And with his ideology of being a borderliner aligning with whoever he wants, putting him in a position to work with numerous different characters could be advantageous. Because of this, I would put Kiora Jin as a midfielder for the World Cup team. Now originally I had him as a wingback, but his lack of defensive ability made me question if that was a good idea or not. But after looking at what we know Kiora's strengths to be, he excels in contributions to an offensive play. Because of this, putting him in the midfield with someone like Hiyori allows for both predictability and unpredictability to control the midfield. And since Kiora has excellent ball keeping skills, having him in that space feels like an extra benefit. So when it comes to Kiora's placement on the U20 team, I think having him play as a midfielder is honestly the best position for him. And the last player to cover in the top 23 is Nijiro Nanase. Now for Nanase, if I'm being honest, I think he's only going to be playing in maybe one more game in the entire series. Nanase's only real skills are in his full body ambidexterity and his compatibility as a post player, but overall in every other regard, he is not that good of a player. Even Rin comments about how unrefined his left and right both are, and even with extra training, I severely doubt that Nanase would become a worthy sub going into the World Cup, much less a starter. The only usage I could ever see him having is in a similar capacity to Corona, but his weapons really don't compare to Corona in regards to what he can provide. For his position though, putting him on the left wing makes the most amount of sense for compatibility with Rin, allowing for him to contribute to the offensive play. But he could also play as a midfielder acting alongside Hiyori, allowing for Hiyori to handle the long-range technical passes while Nanase handles the shorter and closer passing plays. Overall though, players like Zantetsu, Corona, and even Kiyor are better suited than Nanase, and I really don't see him playing to any significant capacity. But if he did, playing him as a midfielder or left winger would be the most logical. And those were the positions that I would predict the top 23 to play going into the World Cup and all of the different formations. This video took a lot of work, so I hope you guys did enjoy it. Now remember though, this video is simply my opinion with evidence from the manga to support my opinion, and if you have a different opinion, that's totally fine. But aside from that, I hope you guys did enjoy this video and will continue to enjoy it in the future. Before the video ends though, I want to make an announcement. I want to shout out my buddy Rez on Twitter who cooked on a lot of my thumbnails recently. He's recently opened up commissions, and I would highly recommend y'all take advantage of that now since his art is insanely clean. The link to his Ko-fi and X are linked down below in the description, so please go check him out and, you know, get commissioned while you can. And again, I want to say thank you so much to all the members of the channel who help support me and my content. And if you want to earn some awesome benefits like they do, and even get your name mentioned in the Blue Lock New World movie, become a member yourself and help support me and my content moving forward. And lastly, a final reminder to join my Discord server if you're interested in getting any more involved with our amazing community. Now as for the question of the video though, did you disagree with any of the positions in this video? Which ones, and where would you put those players? Leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section. And like always, thank you all for watching, like and subscribe to see more awesome Blue Lock content just like this.